Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Scott Silverman, co-founder of Commerce Next. We're a community event series and conference for marketers and DTC brands. Welcome to one of our regular webinars. Today, we're going to explore the idea of modern customer experiences and if and how online shopping experiences can differentiate a brand. As always, we'll be taking your questions. We love these to be interactive. Thank you so much for tuning in and making the time to join live or listening to the replay. So I want to start with a few very important thank yous. The first, I want to thank AB Tasty for being our sponsor. It's a pleasure to partner with them for this webinar. We can't make these webinars happen without the support of our sponsors. Of course, I want to thank all of our speakers who we're going to be hearing from a little bit later. Sherry Shi at TikTok Shop, Lucy Liu at FabFitFun, and Rishika Julapali at J. Crew, and Mary Kate Cash at AB Tasty. And then I also want to thank our team who's working behind the scenes: Maeve, Robert, Veronica, Alan, Tracy, Jenny, who are helping to make this webinar a success. And of course, thank you to the audience for joining today and being with us. So we have another webinar next week on October 24th, same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. The topic appropriately is last minute wins, tactics to maximize Black Friday and Cyber Monday success. That webinar features La Jolla Group, Ripple Junction, Chief Detective, and Maripost, and my fellow co-founder Alan Dick is going to be moderating that conversation. Please remember to save the date for the 2025 Commerce Next Growth Show. That takes place June 24th to the 26th in New York City. Our team will be sharing a link to sign up for early access. That will ensure you get notified that when our VIP tickets get released, coming up very shortly this month. And always, we like to remind you that if you missed any past sessions or you want to brush up on any topics, we have our YouTube channel. It is a wealth of information. We have compiled all of our webinars and sessions from our growth shows for many years. There are interviews with industry executives. You can find, a deep dive on just about any topic in that channel. And don't worry if you've missed anything about missing anything today. We're recording the webinar and we'll make it available as a replay tomorrow. And before we get started, I just want to show you where a few things are on your screen to help make sure you're making the most of today's webinar. So the main panel up on the right is with all the interactivity. That's the chat, the Q&A, the polls, and the handouts. The chat is where you can tell us where you're calling in from. You can interact with the guest. You can make comments about something that you heard. The Q&A is where we ask you if you have questions to put them in there. And the reason we prefer them in the Q&A area is there is an ability to upvote different questions. So if you see a question that is resonating with you, you can upvote that. So we can see which ones are getting the highest priority, and we can make sure that those are going to be asked during the course of the webinar. To encourage our audience to ask questions, once again, we're offering an incentive, a Solo Mesa stove, to one of our lucky live webinar attendees whose question is selected from the panel. And the giveaway is available to qualifying participants in the US and Canada. Each question you ask gives you a chance to win. So good luck with it to everyone with that. Later in the webinar, we'll have polls, and the live questions will appear as a pop-up, but you can see the final results on the polls tab. And finally, we have a copy of the presentation that Mary Kate's going to be giving. In that section, you can download those slides from today and have those to follow along or to look at later. And if you're watching the replay, you can find all the handouts on the bottom of your webinar player. So today's agenda, we are going to first hear from AB Tasty, Mary Kate Cash, on modern customer journeys. We'll do a couple audience polls as we usually do, and then we'll jump into our panel discussion with J. Crew, TikTok Shop, FabFitFun, and Mary Kate will join for that from AB Tasty as well. So with all of those introductions, I'm now excited to introduce Mary Kate Cash. She's the head of growth at AB Tasty. Thank you for joining us today, Mary Kate.
Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here and want to say thank you to everybody who registered and is joined with us here today to talk about modern customer journey strategies and trends that help increase conversion. As Scott said, my name is Mary Kate Cash. I'm the head of growth marketing for North America at AB Tasty. Excited to be here with you all. We only have about 15 minutes, so we're just going to jump right in and get started. If you haven't heard of AB Tasty before, we are your optimization partners pushing brave ideas from the inside out. We do this through experimentation, content personalization, audience segmentation, feature experimentation, and management, and so much more. We help our customers innovate by building new ways to address today's challenges through technology and also through our strategic accompaniment. We help teams be more proactive, innovate on their customer experiences, and we evolve with the specifics of their businesses. To get started, I want to address a change that we've seen in customer journeys, but this should sound very familiar to everyone and really come as no surprise. We've traditionally viewed the customer journey as a very linear path. We have awareness and we have consideration, and then we have purchase or whatever your conversion point is. But today's journey is so much more complex. It's very dynamic. Customers can engage across multiple touch points, jumping back and forth, jumping in and out, between stages, out of stages. They might be in person, then they might be online. They might be on their phone, then move to a web browser. They might engage in online chat and then move to a mobile app, you name it. And in order to best build a modern customer journey, we first need to understand this nonlinear behavior and adapt our strategies to be able to meet customers wherever they are in that journey. Now, we've come a long way in the past few years and made some big strides in a few key areas that I do want to highlight. Customers expect these seamless experiences across channels, and platforms have done and brands have done a really good job of supporting this wide variety of touch points. I know it's been difficult to adapt, having all of your technology available through a mobile app, through online, through mobile browsers, through web browsers, but brands have done a good job of keeping up with this cross-channel accessibility. We've also seen a deeper understanding by brands of what personalization really is, moving from customization to personalization, to be more proactive with giving users an experience that you think that they want, not necessarily one that they have selected themselves. And companies are now leveraging real-time data and historical data to tailor those experiences to the individual customer preferences at every stage. Of course, we have to mention AI. So increased use of AI and we'll say automation, technologies such as machine learning, natural language processing, they've been around for a while and have been integral to today's customer journey efforts. And these tools can help businesses automate various aspects of the customer journey, from generating personalized product recommendations to automating customer support workflows. And we've really seen brands embrace this technology. And lastly, we've seen a focus on data and data insights, which has just grown and grown, I would say, almost exponentially over the past couple of years. Brands have gained deeper insights into customer behaviors, which is allowing for more proactive adjustments and better optimization when it comes to orchestrating these customer journeys. Analytical tools have become essential for identifying future customer needs and opportunities to drive more revenue. Brands now have a lot of tools available to help with customer journey optimization. There's a lot of levers that we can pull here. So we have personalization, we have merchandising, we have experimentation, and not even listed here are tools like CDPs or behavioral analytics or tools like Power BI, Google BigQuery, Tableau, and so on and so forth. There's a lot to wrap your arms around. And this brings with it a new set of challenges. Um, all of these levers is makes orchestration difficult. It's hard to know which ones to pull when and in what combination. And so orchestrating these journeys is still a big challenge for brands. There's a lot of challenges listed here, but I want to highlight a couple of the big ones. The first one being scale. Organizations have to figure out not just how to personalize to one single person, but to countless individuals. And another is consistency, as we mentioned earlier, with customers moving across channels and in and out of different stages. Um, of course, customer expectations are evolving and changing, and that's been the case for a while. But I would say it's changing more rapidly, with social media and access to information. People change their minds, change their directions a lot more quicker than they used to. Uh, in addition to changing expectations, we have like different and I would say more evolved expectations from customers on data privacy and security and compliance. And they're becoming more educated on that front and looking for more responsibility and care from brands when it comes to data and security, and rightly so. And for brands, it's very difficult to keep on top of all of these challenges, plus all of the others that I haven't even listed here, and be able to orchestrate these personalized customer journeys to meet the customers where they are. It can sound very daunting. So, as difficult as it sounds, we can boil a lot of it down to hyper personalization. When we think of the modern customer journey, we think of that one to one journey and being hyper personalized. Um, we should be thinking about how to make personalized customer journeys for each of your visitors. We can take steps to get there by getting, one to many, one to few, and then one to one. So, how can we create these personalized experiences without stumbling on all of these challenges? So I want to set up this idea of being in the moment. We have to start thinking about our journeys as in the moment touches. If a visitor comes to you on a Tuesday and is in a great mood, they're going to be a different shopper than they are on a Thursday and they've had a bad day. So even though it's the same person, they're not exactly the same person when they show up on a different day, having experienced, a different set of emotions, a different set of setbacks through their day. And we have to make sure that we are catering to who they are in that moment. So brands need to personalize for each customer, no matter how they show up or when they show up or through what channel they show up on your site. And so when we think about how we can orchestrate these journeys better to reach that person wherever they are, we can think about combining a lot of these levers that we have at our disposal to better create these in the moment experiences. So let's talk about what that looks like. We all know product recommendations, it's nothing new, but are you experimenting with those product recommendations, or are you building in advanced segmentation with those recommendations to help serve more attractive recommendations or better targeted products? You may be running dynamic content, but are you testing your dynamic content with different audiences? Are you leveraging the data from your CDP or from other sources to help you understand what dynamic content might work best? Do you have technology that you can use to create smart segments and smart campaigns? And by that, I mean, do you have AI or machine learning suggest campaigns that will drive more revenue for your brand based on the data that it's analyzed from your other sources? So, a lot of way to combine these levers to help you create these experiences more seamlessly. And when we combine these levers, we can make every page a personal experience. Can we drive one-to-one product recommendations? Can we progressively roll out new features to ensure we're introducing new experiences that truly add value to the visitors? Is the search function bringing users to what they're looking for in the most direct path? Do we have promotions or banners that have announcements that are specific to that user? Or maybe they can help drive a conversion or drive more in average order value. But revenue metrics aside, all of these personalized customer experiences helps the customer feel seen, and it builds trust and it builds loyalty with the brands that are really getting it right. Again, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about AI, but I don't want to make this whole presentation about it. But we do have to acknowledge how it is changing the way that we orchestrate experiences and the way that it is changing the industry that we all work in. So when we mention smart campaigns and smart segmentation, this is where AI can come into play to help build productivity within the brand and helping them get more campaigns running to help target more visitors, to help better understand what are the right audience segmentations to work in. So, and not only that, but to have a high degree of confidence in those segments and in those campaigns that it's suggesting. um, we can analyze data a lot faster and really help make every interaction a conversation, much like a visitor would expect to have with an employee when they walk into a physical store. Um, I do have a question that I want to address here really quick. How are mood-based in the moment touches actionable? Not sure how we know what a customer's mood is. Great question. I don't want to turn this into a product demo from AB Tasty, but we do have a product available called Emotions AI that I will touch on here in the next slide. And so I'm going to move to the next slide and then explain what Emotions AI is very quickly. It is based on years and years of research by PhDs. This is a tool that's been in the market for a while, where we can analyze how customers are behaving on your site very quickly. Through scrolling movements, mouse movements, how they're engaging with your site, and place them within one of 10 what we would call emotional buckets, from acting, intuitively to rationally, and help you personalize experiences based on what emotional bucket we would place them in. So if you want more information on Emotions AI, please feel free to shoot me an email. You can also check out our website. There's more information there. But I'm going to jump back into this example where we'll talk a little bit more about Emotions AI. And this is from a brand called Jacquerie that is leveraging that emotional segmentation to cross-sell products through recommendations and grow their average order value. Now, what they're doing here is using Emotions AI, and that tool has shown them that they have a large audience segment on their site that would fall into the category that we would call need for understanding. So this segment wants to have more information viewable when evaluating products. Now, in this instance, Jacquerie is promoting a progress bar that shows users how close they are to achieving free shipping, but they're placing that within the product recommendations. And so what this segment is seeing is, okay, I need to spend X amount more dollars. Which of these product recommendations that have already been tailored to me can help me get there? What might I actually be interested in? Me as a user, I like to achieve those free shipping bars, or maybe it's free gift with purchase. But by the time I see it, I'm already into the checkout flow. And then I have to go back out and find something that I might be interested to make it worth it for me to achieve that progress bar. So by placing it here, we're saying, here's how much you have to go. And we've handpicked these products for you that we think you will love. And so by implementing this test, these personalized recommendations led to a 10% increase in revenue for this specific segment and 1.7 times higher AOV for that segment. It also increased their conversion rate because they're seeing how much it takes to reach their threshold and going through with the process. Here's another example of a brand that excels in combining these levers and orchestrating these experiences, and this is Kiehl's. So the Kiehl's team was able to segment a user group, which we'll call wanderers, which we've identified as users who come to the site but don't usually buy anything or convert. They're window shoppers, so to speak. So the team thought that the best way to engage these users was to direct these wanderers to an offers page in hopes that bundles or better pricing might entice them to finally make a purchase. In this instance, the test worked, and 3.3% more users clicked through to see the offers, and transactions increased by 2.26%. Again, when we talk about orchestrating these experiences, what we're really talking about is personalizing, making better use of our audience segments, finding different new novel ways to segment audiences that can help brands better adapt to these in the moment experiences to make every journey truly personal. So now I want to talk about a couple of trends that we've seen and specifically brands that are building new experiences to help with some of the challenges that we've identified earlier in the presentation. AI search is becoming very big for brands, for customers who know exactly what they're looking for. It's great. They can type it in, they can go right to it, no big deal. But sometimes people don't quite know exactly what a product is called or what exactly they need or what they're looking for. And in that case, AI search can really help users narrow down their results and maybe open their discovery up to products that they didn't know of. So this is an example, and it might be a little difficult to see here because of the small font, but if somebody searched for dinner party supplies, never hosted a dinner party before, I don't know what I need, the results are going to show things that would be helpful to have at a dinner party. So it's going to help you identify products that you might not have or products that you might not have thought that you needed. Now, these AI search results can help in a number of different ways too, and more than just product discoverability, it can help with bounce rates because it mitigates the risk of having a no results page. It can also help get people to what they're looking for quicker in that more direct path. So it helps with things like bounce rate and conversion. Predictive text, predictive search, again, helping narrow down search results. Ideally, customers who know what they're looking for can start typing in the sweater they're looking for, and the result pops right up, doesn't even direct you to a new page or a results page, and you can click right to it. But if you're starting to type it in and, maybe you want to see what the brand is going to suggest as results that exist in their inventory, you can start to have predictive type showing up in the search bar, less to type, less typos, gets customers to exactly what they're looking for, but also have predictive results start to show up as the customer types. Again, helping them get to a product quicker. Now, we can do this through the predictive text or modify the results that are showing up. Lastly, I want to talk about driving more logins. This is a really big trend that we've seen with a lot of brands from Ulta Beauty to Papa John's, where they've been running tests to try to drive more users to log in and trying to get users to create new accounts. This ties back to the privacy and data security concerns that consumers have. They've become much more considerate and careful about the data that they share with which brands and how brands are actually using that data. And the industry has made moves to accommodate users here. We've deprecated cookies and we've reduced our dependency on third-party data. And now what we need to do is build strategies to improve our zero-party data. The best way to do this is to encourage users to create accounts with you and keep that data up to date. This is great because the consumers are providing the data to you in a way that they feel comfortable with, and they do it under the assumption that I'm providing you this data. You're going to provide value to me somehow, however they perceive that value. So here, Papa John's had a mobile page where they had a cart icon in the upper right-hand corner. They quickly realized that this was not a good use of their real estate there, especially if a lot of customers hadn't even started an order yet. There's no need to have a cart there. So they switched it out with a login button. Now, this increased their sign-ins by 17% and increased their account creations by 19%. So they'll now be able to create far more personalized experiences based on order data, account data, location data, all the data that the customers have saved in their profiles. It's a great way to boost your personalization strategy with the added benefit of using that self-provided data. To wrap up, I just want to highlight a few key takeaways. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I can type back as we go. But real-time AI-driven hyper-personalization is critical to creating these modern customer journeys. Consistency is key. Consistency across all customer touch points is essential for building that trust and driving conversions. We must embrace privacy-first, data-driven strategies that respect customer preferences and also regulatory requirements. And finally, we have to keep an eye on future trends like AI-powered search and journey orchestration, which will continue to reshape the customer experience landscape. And that's all I have. I want to thank you all for listening. And I know we have some poll questions coming up, so I'm going to throw it back to you, Scott.
Great. Thank you, Mary Kate. Great overview of, all of these best practices, things that we can do with more data to improve shopping experiences. And the way we put together this webinar is, I think Mary Kate did a great job of sharing a lot of things you should be taking into consideration with the current state of shopping, and where we want to transition a little bit more is what are some of the future states of online shopping? What are some of the customer behaviors that are driving those? So I think the polling questions will help us kind of make that transition. So why don't we kind of bring up the first question? So the first question is, do you agree that a test and learn incremental approach to UX is incompatible with inventing novel new shopping experiences? So do you strongly agree, somewhat agree, you're kind of neutral, or you somewhat disagree or strongly disagree? So this will be interesting for us to see how the panelists feel about this as well. But there's generally disagreement with this. So we're seeing, about 40% strongly disagree. There's only 23% that somewhat agree. Nobody strongly agrees. So that'll be interesting for us to dig into a little bit more as we have the conversation. So why don't we close that out? The next question is, do you agree that shopping experiences across e-commerce stores should be similar so that shoppers find them familiar, where they know where things are, they know what the flow of things are going to be? Is that overall better for an e-commerce business or not? So do you strongly agree, somewhat agree, you're neutral, or do you somewhat disagree or strongly disagree? All right, so we're seeing our audience does not like big changes. They like incremental, and they like this idea of things being familiar. So there's a lot of agreement that things should be familiar to them. So again, another great conversation for us to talk a little bit more about during the panel discussion. So the last question we'll ask you about, this is tee up for next week's webinar, Last Minute Wins, Tactics to Maximize Black Friday and Cyber Monday Success. So the question is, which of the following would you like the October 23rd webinar panel to focus on the most during their session? So you can pick up to two: last minute social media tactics, email and SMS strategies for higher engagement, optimize paid ads and SEM, personalization on your website, content formats and creative use, or something outside of those five choices that you can put in the chat. So email and SMS strategies seem to be the highest. That's at 29%. kind of the number 2 is optimizing paid ad and SEM. So kind of the meat and potatoes of e-commerce. So that makes a lot of sense. All right. So thank you all for participating in the polling question. Why don't we bring up the panel and get into this conversation about where customer journeys, customer experiences might be going in the near future, or some hints that we're seeing of them in some of today's businesses. So Sherry, Lucy, Rishika, thanks for joining. Mary Kate, nice to have you back. Why don't we start just with some introductions? So Sherry, if you could just tell us, tell us a little bit about TikTok Shop and what you do there.
Sure. Hi, my name is Sherry Shi. I'm the head of women's fashion for TikTok Shop. I joined TikTok about 2 years ago, part of the founding team for TikTok Shop in the US. And before that, I had sort of mixed experience coming from the platform from 5 years in Amazon. And then also retail fashion through Shopbop and 2 fashion brands in Marc Jacobs and DVF. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm super excited to be here.
Thanks. Rishika?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Rachika from J.Crew Group. I run digital experiences across the J.Crew group of brands, the J.Crew Factory and Madewell. That means everything that has a digital or customer touch point across our websites and apps and in-store omni experiences.
And Lucy?
Hi everyone, I'm Lucy. I'm the VP of Product and Strategic Planning at FabFitFun. For those of you who don't know, FabFitFun is most known for our full-size subscription box, where we ship out lifestyle products across the whole spectrum quarterly to our members. But we are also democratizing access to premium brands across our shopping experiences as well. I've been there for the last 9 years. So it's been quite a journey, and previously I was at Disney in gaming and also at JP Morgan doing finance. Excited to be here.
Awesome. All right, Rashika, I'm going to start with you first. So congrats on J.Crew being recognized for its best-in-class shopping experience by Business of Fashion. And I saw that published, and I thought, wow, if I could get Rashika to join this, that would be so appropriate for this conversation. This recognition talks about how a website should accomplish like 2 goals at the same time: telling a brand story and selling products, which sometimes those make one harder than the other. But maybe you could talk about how you balance these goals in your role as VP of product, and what do what kind of metrics do you look at to see if it's getting out of balance at all?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, and thanks for recognizing the best-in-class shopping experience. It's new and great to be recognized for that. I think, from a digital experience perspective, we relish the challenge to tell the brand stories. It's kind of what sets the brand apart from every other shopping site, which is sort of similar to one of your other questions that you said, like, could there be fatigue if every shopping site's the same and producing the same way? And so we try and listen to the brand goals and challenge ourselves really from a user experience perspective, from UX, how to infuse content, whether it's editorial content, outfitting content, the values of the brand or the value proposition. And we want to still see that uplift all KPIs, whether it's browse, add to cart, conversion across the funnel. And what we found is too often, like, the brands are coming up with content and it's put on other pages, and people aren't going to the other pages. So I think the real nut to crack is, how do we infuse that content and maintain or uplift our KPIs at the same time? And so we really have a relentless focus on guided discovery and trying to give the user credit that they know how to shop, but how can we inspire them in that shopping journey?
Awesome. So Sherry, TikTok Shop's probably the most unique shopping experience of anybody represented on this panel. And if you took the polling questions about incremental change and and everything being similar, you probably wouldn't have TikTok Shop. So, I'm interested to hear you talk. I mean, being part of the founding team, like, what are you tapping into there? And what, like, it's so different than search and browse of,
Really?
not just different than anyone on the panel, but almost different than like almost everything else that exists right now. If you could talk a little bit about like what's the beating heart of that?
So true. Scott, when you think about how people shop in real life, there are all kinds of buyers, right, making buying decisions. There's one type of buyer, very high intent. They know what they want exactly. Kind of my husband. He for his hair, he needs a new pair of pants. He likes bonobos and Uviori. He goes to the website and then probably spend 10 minutes, and then he make the buying decision. He's done. And the other type of buyer, kind of like me, and my closet is already full. I don't need another dress. But I saw, this Ghani dress on my friend in a party. It looks great, so I gotta have it. So then I went to the website and then searching for it. I went to social media to see how people wear it in real life before I make the buying decision. So there is a search based for very high intent buyers. At the same time, a lot of buying decision is influenced by each other. The different touch point. So I think that's probably what makes TikTok Shop unique, because it's inspiration based versus search based. And then the inspiration comes from the real people, wearing the product or demoing the product in real life, right? So this is a kind of a very rich media, very rich content coming from people using the live product in real life, and that inspire people to buy. I think that's what makes this sort of a experience very unique for TikTok Shop. It's already happening, before TikTok Shop. What TikTok Shop does is really connecting the inspiration to buying decision, kind of shorten the journey. Instead of going, an extra mile to looking for the product outside, you can actually put the product in the shopping cart, and then, basically one click and you're good. So that is, from the conversion perspective, much better. The journey is much shorter. I think that's what makes TikTok unique.
Great. So, and Lucy, I, had the privilege of being at a dinner with you. You were talking very passionately about the importance of online shopping as a brand differentiator, especially when you don't have stores. And I mean, I think you hinted a little bit in your introduction about democratizing luxury products for people, but maybe you could kind of summarize your thoughts on the way, FabFitFun is approaching shopping experiences as a brand differentiator when you don't have stores, and how you go about doing that from a product perspective.
Of course, and I appreciate you inviting me on here. I had a great time at that dinner. So, I think first I would just to clarify and take a step back, I think that differentiation is something that, I think all brands should be thinking about holistically. And so I certainly think there's a case for stores, for certain company strategies. It clearly works very well for Apple. But online presents a very unique opportunity that obviously we all take advantage of from the perspective of greater reach, being able to have more innovative experiences, and being able to meet people where they are, as Mary Kate shared in her presentation about just these dynamic journeys that customers are going through. I do think that along that path, online is also going to be a very democratizing force. As Sherry mentioned earlier, I think that the real important thing is going to be, how do we create these ecosystems, right, where customers can find the products that they're looking for, and then actually then go ahead and purchase those products. And I think as information becomes more democratizing, that also means that there's going to be consolidation, because customers are going to have greater information at their fingertips. And so I do think that the important thing for brands to be thinking about in this future of greater consolidation and democratization is, how are you going to stand out to the consumer from a brand differentiator perspective, how can online help with that? As well as how can you build what I would call trust currency, which is how can you create really authentic relationships, whether it be through video, TikTok Shop, through really having a real relationship as if you're a friend, such that it's not just a transactional relationship that you just go to the next purchase. And so for FabFitFun, that's essentially what we're thinking about every day. We're working on building a trust ecosystem very similar to TikTok Shops in a way, but it's more sort of focused on the sort of shopping first side and creating that discovery to purchase and democratizing the pricing from the fact that we have members being able to negotiate those deals from a volume perspective.
Great, thanks. So with this next question, I realize I'm kind of going against what our audience has told us in the polling questions, but I want to hear the panel talk a little bit about it. So the premise is that online shopping has been driven by search and browse for say 20 years. I mean, if you look at a product detail page on Amazon from 20 years ago to today, it probably has a lot of the same elements that are there. And clearly, as Mary Kate was outlining, there's a lot you can do to improve conversion and optimize and use all of the technology and data available to you. But if you want to have this brand new novel way of shopping to potentially embrace a customer trend or be able to take better advantage of technology, is this idea of incremental test and learn the best way to go about doing it? And I don't know, Rashika, I'll start with you. I'm kind of interested to hear your perspective on this. If you think that's the way to go, or if you have a different point of view,
I think it's a bit of both. It's I'll say contradictory things probably. So you can do a lot through test and learn, right? You can, for example, people are experimenting with Gen AI these days, and you could launch something and test and learn that, right, in a small space on your site. And so you will be learning about a new shopping or a novel way to shop through a test and learn strategy. You might need to monitor different KPIs and think about how you incorporate and learn in your overall long-term roadmap what that means. So are you testing and learning to launch tomorrow, or is it a test and learn for future ways of shopping, and learning where the customer's going and how they use a new feature? We tend to say in our world that we like to look at 3 different types of updates to the site. One is or updates to the experiences, but the foundational work where you can have step changes in performance and unlock new technologies. The feature work, which tends to have a lot of test and learn in it, which tends to go towards your typical KPIs of conversion rate and optimization. And then we look at futures, so foundations, features, and futures. And the futures is really where you probably still going to use a test and learn strategy, but you're being a little bit out there as to what you're testing for and what you're trying to learn, and it's not necessarily tied to the immediate near-term lift in ROI and the forecast, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of in a different bucket, and I think just taking a different framework approach can help separate what you're trying to learn and whether it's going to impact KPIs today or in the long term.
And I'm curious, Sherry, Lucy, Mary Kate, any thoughts on this?
I think the idea of novel, I guess I just want to say, when we're talking about novel, it's the idea of something that is brand new that we've never seen before, that all of a sudden appears. And when we do this test and learn incremental development, I think when we consider what novel is, we have to kind of compare what did it look like last year compared to this year. And it can still be a novel experience. We've just kind of gotten there in baby steps instead of taking one giant step. And the benefit of getting there that way is that you don't run the risk of making a huge trip in that big step and falling flat on your face. If we've taken these baby steps, we've ensured that this is a feature that's driving value. This is something that the customers are adopting. This is a technique that or a way that they'd like to browse. And we've kind of figured it out along the way. But just because it hasn't appeared all of a sudden doesn't necessarily mean that it's not novel. So I think if we kind of change the way that we're thinking about it, we are still developing these novel experiences. It's just coming about more slowly and over time.
Sherry, I'm kind of curious. I mean, I made a comment. I don't know if you agree with it or not, that maybe TikTok Shop, wouldn't exist if it weren't, if it was based on, a step approach. But maybe you disagree with that. I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts.
I think Rashika provided a very good framework. You think about, making decisions. The consideration always be, because I used to run a fashion brand as well. When I try to make decision, I always look at, because each of us has a business to run, right? E-commerce is daily operation. So you don't want to daily operation. So from that perspective, improving and looking at is the incremental change. So I tend to make decisions through the lens of, how disruptive this is going to my business. But some of the technology is transformative, right? And then from that perspective is nothing, you have nothing to look back on, make decision. So if I have to make decision on would I adopt this kind of transformative technology, I also look from the lens of the growth potential as well. How big is the prize development for us to put in? And TikTok Shop, it is transformative, as we've seen in other markets, and is what brought by the TikTok, the emergence of TikTok as a social platform in the first place. And then we found out because the inspiration is driving shopping behavior change, and that's how this TikTok Shop evolved from the sort of content platform. From that perspective, it is transformative, but it doesn't necessarily have to be disruptive, because you can build on your current platform, extended your business through TikTok as a sales channel without disrupting your business. So that's how I looked at and make decisions.
So we had a question from Aaron at Donatus Pizza. I think they're based in Columbus, on how do you influence leadership about the importance of longer term KPIs when they tend to be focused on, incremental profits. So I would imagine that resonates with not just everyone on the panel, but everyone on the call. I don't know. Maybe Lucy, we'll start with you, and I'm interested to hear other thoughts on this.
Yeah. First of all, Rashika, I'm going to take that FFF and we're going to bring it to FFF. I love it. I mean, I think it's a challenge, and it also kind of depends on where your organization is, whether it's in a phase where it's more so optimizing versus in a phase where it's seeking that next growth inflection. In those moments, and I feel that FabFitFun is sort of in that balanced state right now, where we actually want to have a portfolio of what I would say the smaller rocks that we're optimizing for, which also needs a level of focus, but also saying, hey, if we think about our purpose and our vision 3 to 5 years out, how are we going to make meaningful progress towards that? That requires meaningful effort and investment. And so I think a lot of that comes down to clearly aligning on where you want to be with leadership 3 to 5 years, 10 years from now. And then saying, okay, what are the steps that we're going to need to take today to actually move us in that direction meaningfully, the 80% sort of energy moving in that direction.
Any other thoughts on how to influence leadership?
Sorry, I mean, I think the way that we like to work at JCG, we're lockstep with them on the dailies and the forecast and the quarterlies, and then we're building a space for longer term KPIs. So I think it's about not taking your eye off what the business needs, and we're running a retail business and it's run on a forecast, but finding a space to then bring in these longer term KPIs.
All right, we're going to transition again to, like, we got some feedback from the audience about this idea of familiarity in shopping, and I'll kind of take it one step further. I'll refer to it as the Amazon effect, where Amazon does something. Maybe it's early on they added ratings and reviews, then they added free shipping. Who knows now? Like they're doing Rufus and summaries of questions. And what I think often happens is that retailers and brands feel some pressure to follow that, so that, because if the customer expectation has been set by somewhere where they're making a lot of purchases, then if you're not doing that the same way, then it could feel very different, potentially be a negative. So we talked about this in the prep call, that maybe that doesn't necessarily apply to fashion, but I mean, Sherry, you had a strong opinion about that. I'm interested to hear your thoughts. I mean, you've been mostly in fashion, but I don't know if you can even put yourself in the shoes of someone selling, appliances or something else.
Yeah. I always draw the online experience to real life shopping experience. Like, you have to think how people buy in real life. I think that's really the key starting point. Amazon job is, like, improving the product description, make sure people see the product 360, and reading the review to make buying decisions. But I think if that's the only thing you are working on in terms of from a content perspective, then we're missing a big picture, right? Again, think how product is being used in real life. I mean, there is a much bigger canvas for the product, content to be created, and that's life, real life, right? How the product, how your customers using your product, they have hundreds probably scenarios and content that you can never dream up, right? And your content team can never match the sort of volume that created by your customers. And then also, when I joined TikTok, I was really surprised how strong the community is, and that's probably something that brands, if you don't really keep an eye on it, you're not following that. You're missing that sort of the bigger community that your brand's been represented, by your customers outside of your purview. So I think absolutely, there's things that Amazon does a great job. The product description, the content, making the reviews, and then customer need that as a foundation. But also, like, don't miss the bigger picture of how the product is being used in real life by real people, real customer. And that's where the sort of an inspiration, community-based recommendation comes in. And I think that's the biggest opportunity for brands.
Can I add a quick note? I know we're running short.
Yeah, no, please do. We have time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I absolutely agree with Sherry here. I think that the driving and pivotal factor is to understand what the consumer needs. And I think that, it's important to be careful not to optimize towards what I would like say as an analogy here, like the local maxima, which is, it's very important to be aware of what competitors are doing and what customers expect, but you don't necessarily optimize towards that. And you have to identify where are the areas that I'm going to evolve the game. And the areas that you evolve the game, those are areas where you don't necessarily want to just stick to what's familiar. And for things that, like, you don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel, those make a lot of sense to follow. Even in the Amazon case, like, we're really recognizing, right, that the shipping, the fast shipping is clearly something that Amazon pioneered and drove as a standard for the organization. But at the same time, while it may make a lot of sense to be competitive in e-commerce, when it comes to, at least for our box, it's something that, like, we have to balance with driving a huge volume of inventory that, I think our customers are actually willing to accept the pricing and the personalization aspect over having it in 2 days. And so there's trade-offs that you have to make even at that level, depending on what's most important to your customers.
I have a couple of things to add on to what you were saying, Lucy, about where you're optimizing to. And that's something that I think brands can look to Amazon for some inspiration, but not necessarily to follow them. Something that Amazon is really good at is testing. They run so many tests. And for smaller organizations, it can be really helpful to say, Amazon did this, not let's do it too, but let's test that. Let's see how our audience reacts to that. It's important to understand that what works for Amazon is not necessarily going to work for you. People go to Amazon for very specific reasons. They might be going to you for very different reasons. And so, that's where knowing your audience comes into play. But their ideation and their roadmap of testing is so involved. You can absolutely look at them and say, hey, I think they're testing this. Let's test that too and see how it plays with our audience. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Either way, you're kind of getting closer to what your customers want.
All right, so we have about 5 minutes. I want to wrap up by having everyone, be, looking into the crystal ball a little bit. I made this statement before that, if you look at like a product detail page from 20 years ago and today, it has a lot of the same elements. But now today we have, especially AI, we have a lot of new technologies, we have new devices, that whether it's the Apple Vision Pro or other ways of interfacing with the internet in digital. Do you think that 5-10 years from now we will see shopping interfaces that are unrecognizable to shoppers today? And if not, why? So Rashika, I'll start with you.
Sure. I don't know I don't know if I'll go as far as to say unrecognizable. I would want to say like we've been seeing snippets of VR and AR out there for a while. We've played with some experiences on our site where you could go into a virtual chalet and shop, for example. And so I think there's been teasers of different shopping experiences already out there. We're also have an app in the AVP and we've been playing with that. And so I think things are going to evolve. I'm not saying radical difference to be determined, but I think evolution, hopefully the PDP gets to somewhere where you're not saying exactly the same, but I think it's already happening in small pieces around us.
Sherry, how about you?
One of the biggest pain points for fashion is high return rate, and that's partly due to the lack of this sort of sensory. You cannot touch it, you cannot feel it because it's online. I am hoping, and I'm hoping the solutions in the works right now to address that, so that you can you can actually, and the customer can feel it, and or in some way have a similar experience that very close to their real life buying experience. So I'm hoping that can be a solution in the near future to reduce that pain point, as close to real life, shopping as possible. Yeah.
And Lucy?
I'm very excited about the future. I actually think it's going to be more recognizable than what we think, because I really see AI as a tool to help us scale the human experience. So the two things that I see is, one, I think that we're really going to see an intermediary, they like to say the agent, that allows you to, based on what you need and your personal experience, help recommend the products that you want, and ideally in a more natural form, as a friend. Secondly, I think that we're going to see a more focus on entertainment and shopping and the delight of the real human experience, because now you don't have to be the one necessarily I'm going to say Costco runs, but I actually really enjoy Costco runs, but like doing whatever sort of like utilitarian shopping that you need to do, and you can spend more of your time shopping for the fun, the discovery, and the connection of it.
All right, Mary Kate, as a sponsor, we'll give you the final word and let you wrap up with your thoughts on the future.
Yeah, I think that I'm with Rashika on this. I don't know that they're going to be unrecognizable, but I do think that they are going to be vastly different, thinking 10 years from now. you mentioned the Vision Pro. You know, I could see a situation where somebody, you know, is walking into a store wearing their Vision Pro and is having what feels like an in-person shopping experience, and can have an AI assistant in that VR help them make this purchase. And I don't know how we get there, but I do tend to kind of think, if you've seen the movie The Fifth Element, the Fifth Element with like flying cars and all this stuff, like I do kind of imagine like we're getting close to that, but maybe we're not. I just, you know, am a believer.
All right. Well, Sherry, Rashika, Lucy, Mary Kate, thank you all for sharing your thoughts and your time with our community at Commerce Next and putting up with my philosophical questions. Great, you know, I think great information that you all shared and perspectives. So I know that's going to be valuable to our audience. So thank you very much. And we hope to see everyone back again next Wednesday, October 24th, for a conversation about making some last minute improvements for Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So until then, have a great rest of the day. Thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.